you see in the film, gets underneath the CEO2 really easily because it's a lot more flexible.
Well, you can tell that's his first time on camera ever. My God, did you check your drawers? Did you shit them?
I did.
All right. Once in a while, I'll get a package containing a product from a company to review it, test it out, whatever, etc. Well, today is one of those days, and that's exactly what I have here from STX. Shout out to those guys. Can only guess what's inside. All right, sweet. So I got a box of memory mesh, super soft white. Oh, a string kit. And of course, the Nike CEO 2. Had to adjust the lighting a bit, but there you go. Now you can see it. Freaking rookie mistake. Pretty nice, hey? So, obviously we're going to be reviewing the CEO 2 for this video. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and do a quick overview / brief history of the original CEO. So back in 2014, Nike released the first ever Nike CEO, which is this. Sorry, this is the only newest head I have of the OG CEO. All my other ones are just destroyed, and this one is the least destroyed. So, gonna be referencing this throughout the video. So a few years back, Nike did release his head as a midfield / attack head. Hence the reason why the face shape is pretty narrow, one of the most narrow face shapes I've ever seen in a lacrosse head. And when this was first released, of course, everyone goes out and buys it. But over time, it kind of fell off the popularity scale. Just not many people were fans of the face shape, and they kind of felt the head was just too long of a head for them. They liked a more short, compact head, like the Lakota. So a lot of people were kind of turned away from using this head as an attackman and midfield head. And although the face shape did push away the intended audience, a whole different group was lured in by this face shape. A whole different group that was never intended to use this head. And that just so happens to be the freaking weirdo, oddball, face-off guys. That's right. Talking about all you guys watching this right now. All you freaking weird. The fact that it was one of the most narrow heads on the market really seemed like a promising head. And it wasn't until people actually got their hands on this and got some time with it and actually broke it in that people realized that this didn't face off like your normal head that you would use for face-offs. Because back then, they didn't have face-off specific heads. They had the Blade, they had the Superpower, they had the Nas. All those kind of heads that were made for midfield use, but just so happened to be good at face-offs. And this was one of those too. But the fact that it was so narrow, people wanted to try it out, and it turned out the flex entirely different from all those other heads. And that's when people first discovered the face flex. And it's the face flex itself that allows this head to still dominate the market. Even till this day, there still hasn't been a head that feels exactly like this one, which is the reason why people still use it. Fast forward 5 years, now Nike has a pretty big decision to make. They're coming out with a second version of all their heads, and the CEO is next in line. So now the decision to be made is, do we go back to our original plan and redo this head to make it so where it is a dominant midfield / attack head? Or do we scrap all that and do we target our major audience, which is the face-off guys, and make it a face-off head? And that's exactly what they did with the CEO 2. This is purely a face-off version of the CEO. It still can be used for field, but there's a few things in this head that kind of show that it really is a face-off head. Let's compare them two side by side. They're pretty much identical, okay? They're the same exact head. As far as design, layout, how it looks, whatever. Everything is the exact same. There's two things in this head that are different than this one, but everything else is cosmetic differences, meaning they're not gonna affect your face-offs. They're just for looks. Look at the OG and the CEO 2. The CEO 2 is definitely more edged in certain areas where the CEO OG is rounded. This one has 17 sidewall holes, this one has 16, not a big difference there. But the two biggest differences between this head and the OG, first one, throat, okay? Big difference. Yes, I know it's not Fogo friendly, but you're getting a shorter throat. Lining them up right there at the ball stops, that is the difference in the throat between the OG CEO and the CEO 2. I know, it's not angled the right way. It's angled the exact opposite way of how we like our hand to be on the stick. I get it. That bothers me a lot too, but we are getting a shorter throat. So, and they also threw in the throat plug that is very similar to the Dual 2. I would have to say this is the same exact throat as the Dual 2. The OG CEO has one screw in the back. The CEO2 has two. Now, biggest difference between these two heads is plastic. This plastic is not the same as this plastic. This is much stiffer, much springier. It's supposed to hold its shape longer and be more durable. Not exactly sure how well the sidewall holes are gonna hold up because they are the same exact style as the OG, but we'll see later on in the video. We're really gonna test out the durability in this. So, pretty big video as far as content goes. I'm gonna try to keep it as short as possible. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get this strung up, and we're gonna put this thing through the ringer, come back with my final thoughts, answer a few questions. I don't know what I'm saying now. Let's just go ahead and get it strung up. All right, folks, next day, we got the CEO2 all strung up. Went with an OG pattern for this one. I'll show you guys how to string this head up later on in a different video. But before I jump into the testing, I'm gonna show you guys something real quick. Just wanna show you guys how the head looks on different shafts that have been taped for the OG CEO and the CEO2. So if I take off the CEO and then take off, CEO2, put that on the CEO shaft. Yeah, huge difference there. Yeah, pretty big difference. Okay, so that's how that looks. Now, we're gonna remove the Dual 2. Come on. Oh. And put the CEO2 on that shaft. Okay, pretty spot on with the Dual 2's throat. It might just be a tad bit longer, but it lines up pretty perfect with the tape job. So that's just for reference of how long the CEO2's throat is compared to the OG CEO and the Dual 2 throat. And before everybody starts asking me, I have the String King Composite Pro shaft right here. See if that fits on. Nope, does not fit. Holes don't line up. I know you can't see that, but the holes don't line up. Nope, doesn't fit. Jesus. All right, so I'm ready to take my first few reps with the CEO2. And for this video, I'm not gonna do the full 300 reps like I did for the Warrior Burn. That just took way too long and kind of seemed boring. But for this segment, I am gonna just try to break this in as much as possible with dummy stick reps. I'm gonna record maybe a handful of reps just as the head progressively breaks in. But for this portion, we're just gonna try to break it in as fast as possible. All right, first rep, here we go. All right, first impressions after that first initial face off, not as stiff as expected. It actually feels kind of broken in already. Does a good job wrapping around that ball. And again, just doesn't feel as stiff as expected. So we'll see how this thing goes over time. But yeah, after one face off and just that, I mean, it's starting to bend a little bit. So I'm just gonna continue to take more face offs with it and update you guys on how this thing breaks in over time. So here we go. Alrighty, so there's 10 reps taken with the CEO2. Just light dummy stick reps. Holding its shape pretty well. It is starting to bend towards its left a little bit. That right sidewall is starting to kick out, but 10 reps down, 1,000 more to go. Here we go. All right, as you can tell, I'm sweating nutsack. Just finished the 100 reps with the Nike CEO2, and this is what it looks like. You can see the kinks starting to form here and here, which is always nice, is what we want out of the CEO. And it feels pretty promising. I'm not gonna give you guys any sort of idea of how this thing feels yet. I'll do that after all the testing is done. But now the real test is going to be how this thing handles and performs during live reps, which is what we're going to do right now. We're going to follow that up with some air reps. We're going to show you guys different angles of how this thing looks when flexed. So be sure you stick around post-testing. We've got a lot of questions to answer, a lot of information to cover with the head as far as how it handled, how it performed. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, let's go.
Down. Set. Set.
Oh my God. Just got done doing some live reps with the CEO2 versus the CEO. Both of us have used the CEO for numerous years now, right? We both started using the CEO.
Yep.
So we got a pretty good,
Yep.
so we got a pretty good understanding of how these heads stack up against each other. Head to head compared to the OG CEO, how did it feel?
Just like the burn that just came out, definitely couldn't really pinch the ball because it was so wide, and it was also too stiff. You know, it couldn't get really under the CEO. But the CEO, if you see in the film, gets underneath the CEO2 really easily because it's a lot more flexible.
Well, you can tell that's his first time on camera ever. My God, you check your drawers. Did you shit them?
I did.
All right. Throat's nice though. Shortness. Did the slant bother you at all? Because I know previous you said, oh, the slant. How'd the slant feel?
I mean, it wasn't as slanted as, you know, this one, but definitely shorter and, you know, a lot better.
Better to have a shorter throat than a longer throat, right? Will you personally use the CEO2 over the OG CEO?
No.
Why?
CEO gets underneath, a lot more flexible, can pinch, can do it different exits. Overall, I think it's a better head.
How durable is it though? CO2.
CO2 is super durable, but I still prefer the pinch and the flexibility of the CEO.
Thanks, Ryan, for coming on. Get out of here now. Out of camera. Well, after the camera fell, I went ahead and started doing my whole conclusion, wrap up, final thoughts, everything about the head. Didn't press record. So now I gotta do it all over again. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. First things first, let's go ahead and talk about the relationship between flexibility and durability. When durability increases, flexibility decreases. When flexibility increases, durability decreases. That's just how it works. That's just pretty much the standard across the board for all face-off heads. Let's go ahead and cover the pros and cons first of the CEO2. Biggest pro about this head, it's still a CEO. They didn't change any of the structural layout, anything about the design. The only design they've changed was the throat. Other than that, it's still a CEO. You're still getting that great scoop, you're still getting all your stringing holes, and you're still getting the same exact flex points. And my last pro about this head is its ability to hold its shape. This thing has barely warped on us now. It's extremely durable. No signs of breaking whatsoever, so that's a huge plus in my books as well. The CEO2 is going to be a great option for those guys, but hold on till the end of the video. I am going to go into further detail about that. Now on to the cons. First one, probably the biggest con that both Hunter and I agreed on, and this goes back to that relationship between durability and flexibility. So the last pro I just said about this thing being crazy good for durability, it's not that great with flexibility. If you're a CEO guy who's been using it for a while now, and you love the flexibility in OG CEO, you're not gonna get that out of this. You're still gonna get the flex points and that feel that a normal CEO has with the CEO2. It's just gonna be a much stiffer version. And for somebody that loves the flexibility in CEOs like I do, I'm gonna list that as a con. It's just not as flexible as the original CEO. Another con about this head goes back to them trying to keep this as a more durable CEO, something they can use for more than face-offs, and that is how wide it feels. I've mentioned this with the Warrior Burn FO review. It feels like a super wide head because they're trying to keep it in its original shape as long as possible. So they have to keep the head wide. The CEO is a little bit more narrow than the Burn FO, but it's still, you still have that same feeling of it not pinching down on the ball that well. It just doesn't have that same feel that a CEO has when both sidewalls pinch in. This does it, but just not as hard as a normal CEO does. So that's definitely a big con. Both Hunter and I felt that way. We just felt like we couldn't secure the ball that well with this versus the OG CEO. The last con I have for this head is the whole kinking of the head. I'm a big fan of that. I've always done that to all of my heads. If you look at all of mine, they all have a similar warp to them. So with my CEOs, I like this sidewall to really crank down like that. That's just my style. It doesn't do it as well as the OG CEO. This might change over time, but as of now, I don't see that happening. It felt pretty promising during the air reps and the dummy stick reps, but it really came out during the live reps. Whenever we got tied up, this just didn't want to collapse in on itself. It kind of just stayed straight. So hopefully you guys can see the common theme with why the CEO2 isn't a direct replacement with the CEO. It's because it's too stiff. Across the board, everyone that's already tried it, they say it's too stiff. But Hunter and I are going to do a future video on us trying to get it to feel just like a CEO. So stay tuned for that. But till then, all these issues that are coming from the CEO2 all result back to it being a stiffer head. But on the other hand, the fact that it is a more durable and stiffer head, that does open up doors for specific players. I'm talking about the guys who are willing to make the switch from the CEO to a stiffer version of the CEO. Now, obviously we have two options now other than the CEO. We have the Burn FO and we have the CEO2. And the only reason why you should switch from the CEO to one of these two heads is if you legitimately can't play field with the CEO. Let's say you're in high school or even younger and you're the face-off guy and you need to stay on the field afterwards, and your CEO just gets so warped and so pinched that you can't do anything besides face off with it, then you should definitely make the switch. Or if you can't afford to keep spending money on CEOs, I know they're a lot of money. They break within 2 weeks, within a month if you're lucky. You can't keep spending money on heads. You need something that's going to last you longer. Those are the two guys that should really be worrying about making the switch to a stiffer head. And those stiffer head options, again, are the Burn FO and the CEO2. So if you're one of those two guys, now you have to make a decision. Do you want to try the Burn FO or do you want to try the CEO2? Personally, I'm not trying to fire any shots here, but I would take the CEO2 over the Burn FO. I'm a big fan of the fact that Nike kept the same exact design as the original CEO. They just changed the plastic. Plastic can soften up over time. You see it in dozens of heads. You check out a head that's 10 years old, it's not going to be as stiff as it was when it was brand new. But the problem with the Warrior Burn FO is they changed the structure of the head. They were going for the CEO design on one side, but the right side of it's a completely different structure, and no matter how soft that plastic gets, it's not going to fold the same way as CEO will. So that's the reason why I chose the CEO2 over the Burn FO. That's just my personal opinion. The only true way you can find out which head's best for you is if you get both of them and try them out. That's the best way. But if you can't, you can take my word on it. A guy who's used a CEO for the majority of his career, the CEO2 feels more comfortable to use than the Burn FO. And just a quick warning for the current CEO users who plan on using them, for the remainder of their careers, you might want to pick up one of these CEO2s and start getting used to it, because they're going to stop making the original CEOs. What I've heard is they're making a limited amount, and eventually they're not going to make them anymore. Just like they did with the OG duals. They don't make those anymore. They strictly make dual 2s. So you might as well pick up one of these and just get used to it. Whatever you got to do, because eventually those CEOs are going to be very hard to find. And some guy on eBay is going to try selling them for $400, just like all the OG Blades a few years back. So yeah, you should probably pick one of these up pretty soon and just get used to it. I know, I'm heartbroken too, but whatever, stuff happens. So I guess that partially answers the question of, am I putting this in my gear bag? Yeah, I'm definitely putting it in my gear bag. It's a freaking Nike CEO. Not because I'm forced to put it in my gear bag, because I have to get used to it, but I actually liked it. I really felt comfortable with it after a few reps. This is definitely going to be one of my top Foso options, because it's a Foso CEO. If I could summarize this entire video and describe what this head is in 2 words, it's a Foso CEO. That's all it is. And I don't want to speak too soon, but this might end up replacing the Burn FO. I don't know, it's just too early to tell now, but I felt much more comfortable with this versus this. These are both technically Foso CEOs, but this just feels much closer to a CEO than this. It's too early to tell at this point. Might stay tuned for a future gear bag video where I show you guys what sticks I actually use. I don't know, I felt more comfortable with this. And we all know, comfort is speed. And that wraps up for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions about the CEO2 or any questions in general, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. And be sure you stay tuned for next week's video. We are starting the Faux GoPro video series again. I think we have 3 new heads this spring that have been released, so we got a lot of video to catch up on. We got the Weapon X, we got the Burn FO, and now we got the CEO2. All 3 of those heads are gonna go at it against each other. And of course, we're gonna go against the other face-off heads that we used in our prior videos. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you will get notified when those videos come out. Thanks again to STX for allowing this video to happen. Go ahead and follow them on Instagram and do whatever you gotta do. And that pretty much wraps it up. Super long video. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. If you did, leave a thumbs up. If you did not, leave a thumbs down. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Till then, kids, get them dirty.